Welcome back to the Highlight Spiel. We're here bringing you back with our college football preview special. We've decided to do it by conference. We're going to do each Power 5 conference, and we're starting off with the ACC here. Starting off with maybe the top conference. Who knows? Who's to say? It's hard to argue against that the past few years.
Yeah.
But let's kick it off with the preseason media poll that came out at the ACC kickoff. Over here in the Atlantic Division, they projected Florida State first, Clemson second, Louisville third, NC State fourth, Wake Forest fifth, Syracuse sixth, and Boston College down there at seventh. You pretty much agree with that for the Atlantic Division?
I would have Clemson and Florida State switched around. You can't have
Really?
the defending champion number 2 in anything. You got to have them number 1.
I think Florida State's that top dog this year.
And I would have
and they're the
Louisville.
favorite, man. I mean, they're number 3 in the country, I think, starting off in the poll, wasn't they? They're the favorite, and I mean, I understand Clemson. They've had the thing, but they've lost a lot, and so I think definitely Florida State being top is not.
Florida State too. I have Clemson 1, Louisville 2, and Florida State 3.
So you're just not big sold on Florida State, are you?
Nah, not at all.
You're not sold on Florida State.
Not yet.
I think there's some teams in here in the bottom half that could possibly even make some noise. The Syracuse, NC State. NC State already had a big upset. Can they build off of that? Syracuse, Dino Babers. I mean, he's got that high-powered offense, and I think if Eric Dungy can stay healthy for the whole season, they could do a lot of big things on offense. You've seen last year the receiver they had, Ed Atawo, or however you say his name. He had a big year, broke up a lot of numbers. I think he had like 1,500 yards. Broke the school receiving yards record and maybe I think the touchdowns record or receptions, one of the two.
Wake Forest might be number 4 instead of NC State. Yeah,
Wake Forest,
first winning season last year in 8 years. Maybe?
I think it was the first winning season in 8 years. Yeah, and that's definitely good for Wake Forest. They're definitely on the rise. With that, let's hopefully they can build off that and have another winning season.
In the Coastal Division, they got Miami number 1. Number 2 is VT. Third, they got Georgia Tech. Fourth, they got Pitt. Fifth, they got UNC. Sixth, they got Duke. And seventh, Virginia rounds it up.
I I tend to agree with that mainly. I think that there's some sleeper teams in there, though, too. I think that Pitt could be a team. I think that Pitt and North Carolina potentially could both actually be better than Georgia Tech, who they have there at 3. Pitt's getting the transfer. Max Brown from USC, who was a highly recruited player. His career didn't really pan out that much at USC, but he was one of the top recruits in the country. I think he was the number 1 quarterback, 5-star, top 10 player overall in the country, I do believe.
And UNC got Brandon Harris from LSU.
From LSU, he was a guy that played and was in that quarterback competition at LSU for a while. Didn't really get it going, but they're both here for 1 year as grad transfers for their senior years, so they're going to be playing hard and they could really do some big things for those teams. You've seen what Peterman did last year, transferring in there to Pitt. He had a good year, and Pitt's got another transfer, so hopefully he does just as good. I think he can do just as good, if not better, because Max Brown is a high caliber player. High caliber player.
They don't recruit nobody not good, so
definitely. I think that there'll be a lot. This side of both sides are going to be competitive. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think Florida State for sure, and the other side maybe in Clemson. But on this side, it's hard to say. I think Miami is my favorite, just like they have them listed at 1. Virginia Tech, I think, could be good. I think it may take a little bit for them, maybe mid-season, before they really get kicking, because they're going to be replacing so much on offense. I think their defense is going to be ready to roll, and I think their defense is going to be good from the go, so that'll help them. They're just going to have to carry the offense for maybe a first few games,
So we both agree that the Atlantic Division is probably stronger than the other 2 divisions.
The Atlantic is the strongest overall. You got to say that when you got Florida State, Clemson. Louisville, definitely Louisville. That's the top 3 teams. They're both in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah.
And then I think overall for the conference, my favorite to win is Florida State. I think that they're the team to beat, man. They are. And in the media poll, I think overall in the conference they had Florida State first, Clemson second, then Louisville, and then Miami and Virginia Tech, which I think really that's the top 3. And then I think maybe you can say Miami and Virginia Tech are kind of tied at 4. But I think that's the top 3, and then the other 2.
I don't see how you can say Florida State the team to beat when they're not the winners of the ACC last year or the defending national champion. So technically, Clemson is the team to beat until Clemson loses it themselves. They're the team to beat.
Well, understand what you're saying, but Florida State, they're coming in ranked number 3 for a reason. I mean, you don't get that number 3 in the country ranking out of nowhere.
That's true. But defending the ACC champion might have something to say about that.
That's true. Clemson's right up there at 5, so not far behind them at 5th.
I mean, in the AP poll, they might actually be switched around. You never know.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. The ACC full of great players. They really are one of the top conferences and got some of the great players. Some of the Player of the Year candidates. Who do you think? Who do you got?
Lamar Jackson, probably.
Lamar Jackson definitely is the favorite.
I mean, you just can't go against him. He had 56% completion percentage last year, over 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 9 picks, and a quarterback rating of over 100. So, I mean,
30-9 ratio. That's tough to argue with, and the quarterback rating that high.
Yeah,
he's as good of a player as there is in the nation, for sure.
Maybe the best in the nation.
I mean, I think it's hard to argue that he isn't the best in the nation.
Yeah, he won the Heisman.
He's got a good chance to go back to back.
Maybe.
So then you also got DeAndre Francois over there at Florida State. He's a great player, a good candidate to win it. Maybe a sleeper pick to some, but to me, Amon Richards from Miami, that guy, he's a hell of a player, man. I've watched him play in the bowl game against West Virginia, and that guy's speedy. He's young. He's only going to get better. He's going to be a good one.
Eric Dungy, if the Syracuse line can protect him, he should have a big year.
Yeah, that Dino Babers offense is special, and if he can stay healthy, they said he put on 20 pounds actually in the offseason to try and stay healthy. Last year when he was in there, he did his thing. Injuries have kind of plagued him his first couple of years, but in 16 career starts, he's thrown 37 touchdowns, 65% completion rating. So I think that he can really do something if he can stay healthy all year. Syracuse could shock some people, have a better year than a lot of people would expect.
Hell numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think the 2 transfers that we talked about, Max Brown and Brandon Harris, could potentially be sleepers if they can get their teams wins.
Yeah.
Those are Player of the Year sleepers there.
Who you think gonna win Player of the Year in the ACC though, when it's all said and done with?
I think those guys that we just mentioned are the favorites. And then I think you got to talk about some defensive guys like Shaquille Quarterman at Miami, the linebacker. He's one of the top players in the conference on defense. And then you got Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle over there at Clemson, and then Harold Landry, the defensive end over there at Boston College. Any of those guys right there are also guys you got to talk about when you mention Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But Lamar, everybody's chasing Lamar Jackson. Of course, he's the favorite, definitely.
Him and Francois.
For sure.
What about the top 25 teams in the ACC? We got Florida State number 3, Clemson at number 5, Louisville 17, Miami number 18, and Virginia Tech at number 22.
I mean, that's solid right there. When you get 5 ranked teams in the top 25, that's big right there. And they had others right there close to getting in. I think Pitt was close to getting in, NC State, and then I think Georgia Tech and UNC both received votes as well. So, it's one of the strongest conferences in college football. I think that you're at the point now where we can talk and say, are they the best conference in college football? Have they surpassed the SEC in your eyes?
Being the defending champion, I'd have to say yeah, but the SEC just has so many strong teams in Alabama, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU. I don't know if I named them. I mean, it's hard to go against the SEC. I think they'll always be the powerhouse of the college football world.
I think that 2, maybe even 3 years ago, if you asked me that question, I would have just laughed, And even, in the past year or so, people have been saying it, and I've kind of, But now I realize, I think it is kind of a toss-up that who is the better conference between the ACC and the SEC. The ACC has some of the best defenses in college football. People talk about SEC defenses, but the ACC, that Boston College defense was a top 10 defense in the whole nation last year. Clemson's defense has been very stout the past 2 years. Virginia Tech under Bud Foster's defense always stout, and I can go on and on. And then You got some of the top quarterbacks in college football. You got Lamar Jackson, Francois, and they've had that going for the past few years. They've had big-time players in the ACC, and they've been in the playoff, and they've been in the national championship, and they've won championships. And they've got teams that are ranked in the top 5 going in, 2 top 5 teams. I think going into this season, it's tough to say which is the better conference. It's hard not to lean to the ACC maybe, but I think you can go either way between ACC and SEC being the best conference.
Out of all these top 25 teams, which one has the best chance to keep the ACC college playoff push going?
The best chance to keep the playoff run going? Once again, Florida State. Florida State. I think you can throw Clemson in there, but Florida State to me is like I said, they're the team to beat. We're sitting here, we're arguing about it. We're gonna go back and forth on it this whole ACC preview, I guess. But Florida State, when it's all said and done, I think they're going to be the number 1 team in the conference, and they're going to show that they're capable of doing it. They're capable of going undefeated this season.
Until Clemson gets dethroned, the ACC runs through them. So the team that keeps the ACC in the college football playoff will be Clemson, not Florida State. Clemson.
I think another angle that you've got to think of too is with both of them in the top 5 this year, and Louisville being good, and some of these other teams that have been kind of the bottom of the mill in the past few years now getting better. There's going to be more parity, more competition in the conference. Could that potentially hurt the conference to the point where everyone ends up with 1 or 2 losses and they're maybe kept out of the playoff? Or do you think even a 2-loss ACC champion is 100% in the playoff with the conference's reputation?
Let me see. It really just depends how the voters go. Because
if a Florida State is sitting there battling to get into that top 4, and they have 2 losses to say Clemson and Louisville, they lose to Clemson and Louisville, or even if they have only 1 conference loss, let's say they lose to Clemson in conference, and they lost to Alabama in the first game of the season. Is that Florida State team to you worthy of being in the college football playoff if they've won the ACC Conference championship game, lost in the regular season to Clemson and Alabama?
Oh yeah, because if they 100%, 100%, because they lost to 2 worthy opponents and, like you said, 2 top 5 teams in Clemson and Alabama. So yeah, 100%.
I think if it's a situation like that, then you can still put Florida State in. I think that there's other scenarios though that if it's a Clemson or Florida State sitting with 1 or 2 losses and they do have an upset to maybe this uprising Syracuse squad or Wake Forest or Boston College, then it puts another spin on it, and it's hard to say.
If they both have 2 losses, then they don't have to look at who lost to who and why they lost to that team, and if that team was any good.
I think the ACC is going to be hard to keep out of the college football playoff, regardless though, just with their reputation and everything. I think if you go through the ACC and you have 2 losses or less, even if you do have the 2 losses, if you prove yourself and win that conference championship game, I think that you're pretty much going to consider yourself one of them top 4 teams in the country. There's some big conference games. We talked about the teams in the top 25. A lot of those teams are going to match up this season. We got big one, Florida State at Clemson on November 11th. That's probably the biggest game in the conference. Right now, depending on how records are at that point, that may change. But going into the season, that's the matchup everybody's looking forward to, I think.
And then you got Louisville and Florida State on October 21st.
That'll be a good matchup there.
Too, so that's we'll
in
see.
Tallahassee. We'll see what Lamar Jackson on the road, and can he go in there and shock them and steal one from Florida State, knock them off.
If they does that, then we'll get to talk junk to him the next show about how whack Florida State was.
Clemson and Louisville, the rematch. What a hell of a game that was last year. I mean, I won't forget that one. They was going back and forth. Then Clemson came all the way back, and it was just a battle toward the end there. And I remember watching that at night.
On that same day, though, you got a big old rival in Miami at Florida State.
Miami and Florida State, yep. September 16th. There's 2 big conference games on that day. Miami at Florida State. Miami, are they back? Do you think that Miami is?
If you go back to if you look at their last game, you're only as good as your last game. If you look at their last game, they're back. They held West Virginia to 229 yards, and they had 363 181 passing, 180 some passing. That ain't too much, but then you got or 280 some passing. Then you got 81 yards rushing. So I mean, they back. I mean, if you could show high explosive offense down like West Virginia, then yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Definitely
I think
back.
that their speed is a big part of the reason that happened, and that they're young. When I watched that game, being a West Virginia fan, and I seen these Miami players making plays, they were freshmen and sophomores out there. And I think they're only going to continue to get better. I think Mark Richt is a great coach.
Yeah.
I think that they're definitely, you can finally say Miami is indeed back, and that they're going to continue to improve. And I think this year they may show that. They may pull one upset, and they may end up being, I think, the third team in this conference, and maybe even the second team. If Clemson takes a step back after losing, they could end up potentially being that number 2 team in this whole conference. I like Miami a lot. I do. I think that they're going to really show you something this year and beyond that as well.
My all-time favorite game of the conference is September 3rd. No, not September 3rd. September 30th. Clemson at Virginia Tech.
Clemson at Virginia Tech. Now that's going to be Virginia Tech is a hostile environment.
We only lost to seven points in the ACC championship last year. Granted, we lost some offensive pieces, but by that time, that's what week 5 of the season, I believe. Yeah. And by that time, hopefully the offense will be going, the pieces will be fit, and they'll develop some chemistry. Because that Virginia Tech defense is always standing above Foster, and they're going to be even better this year than they were last year on defense. Maybe 2 of the top 10 corners in the country. Yeah. Like you said, they only lost by 7 last year, and they get the advantage of playing at home in Blacksburg in Lane Stadium, which is one of the toughest places to play in the country. One of the rowdiest, very hostile environment. One of the best entrances in college football. They come out there to the Ainter Sandman, and everybody gets jumping up and down. That whole place shakes. I've been there and seen it, and it's awesome. You got 2 big matchups. You got Virginia Tech heading to Miami, and then you got a rematch of the only team Clemson lost to last year, North Carolina State. I mean, can they get it done again?
Yeah, I'm interested to see that matchup, because I think it's a storyline of, is NC State gonna continue to improve, and they're gonna be like, we beat these guys before, we can do it again, and it's gonna be a great matchup. Or is Clemson gonna go in there hungry for revenge and really come out and just put a hurting on these guys this time around?
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good matchup to see. It truly will. Let's talk about some of these great quarterbacks in the ACC. I know we mentioned them earlier. Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Francois,
Kelly Bryant
at Clemson taking over. Is he going to keep being the guy? Because they got other guys there waiting. Hunter Johnson is waiting in the wings. There's Eric Cooper. They got 3 young guys there, but I think that Kelly Bryant's going to be the guy.
Talked about Eric Dungy.
Eric Dungy, he's a guy that's been impressive when he's been healthy. If he can stay healthy, he can be one of the top quarterbacks in the country in Dino Babers' offense, I do believe. And he's put on 20 pounds, hopefully to stay more healthy. So we'll see how that goes.
Brandon Harris.
Max Brown and Brandon Harris are the wild cards. You don't know
what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think that Max Brown could potentially have a great year. Brandon Harris even, because he's going to have 1 year. Just like Trubisky, you've seen what Trubisky did in that 1 year, and you can see how they work. So
he got drafted number 2 overall. So
maybe Brandon Harris can come in and have another great 1 year run for him. Then you got Daniel Jones at Duke. A lot of people don't talk about Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones, he got thrust in after Cirque went down at Duke last year, and the first half of the season he kind of struggled, was streaky through that first half, but that second half of the season he played great, and he had a QBR of 77.6, which was better than some of the top QBs in the country. Even Lamar Jackson was a higher QBR than him, and so Duke has another good one that a lot of people probably don't know about. There's a lot of great players in the ACC that a lot of people don't even know about. The Dungies and the Daniel Joneses, and and then you got the bigger names, of course, the Kelly Bryants and the Lamar Jacksons, and
DeAndre Francois.
And then we can't forget over in Miami getting Kosi Perry, one of the top recruits in the country. I think he was the number 1 quarterback recruit, if I'm not mistaken. He was the ESPN 300 recruit, a dual threat quarterback. I think that he's a guy that's going to come in and probably start right away. I know Mark Richt probably doesn't want to have to start a true freshman right away, but I think with him it's not really a matter of having to start him right away, as if he is just so talented that he is your best option to start, and you really can't keep that guy off the field. I think that he's going to open some eyes this year, and maybe akin to like what Jalen Hurts did his freshman year at Alabama, and surprise some people as one of the better quarterbacks in the country that kind of comes out of nowhere, a breakout player.
Yeah. Next for Lamar Jackson, what do you see a repeating Heisman? You see somebody dethroning him as the best player in the ACC, or?
I think that it's going to be hard. It's hard to repeat as Heisman. This guy's got a chance to do it. Do I think he will do it? I think he's the favorite, but I think that there is always those players that aren't talked about at the beginning of the season that maybe have transferred in from other schools, that have come from junior colleges, that have been kicked out of other schools and then transferred to other places that are forgotten about, that come out of nowhere and have big years. Not a lot of people knew about Lamar Jackson until last year, sophomore year, and then he comes out and wins the Heisman. I think that maybe there will be some guys like that coming out of nowhere. Plus, the challenges is too much for him. And no, I don't think he will repeat. I think he will probably be in New York for the ceremony again. Yeah, I'll give you that, but I just don't see him repeating. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So is he going to have
too many good players in the country?
Under or over these stats? Is he going to have? Let's see. The stats is 56 completion percentage, 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 9 picks, and a quarterback rating of over 118. Is he going to have over or under them?
As a whole, I can't say for sure. I think completion percentage, I think Louisville would like to see him bump that up a little bit. Hopefully he improves on that. Yards, he will probably come close to matching. That rating is going to be tough. I'd say he probably is back underneath that. I'm not saying he'll have a less season statistically. I just think that there will be some others that maybe have just as good, if not better, seasons this time around, and it's just going to be a lot of good players in the country this year, I do believe. Let's talk about Max Brown taking over at Pitt. He's a guy that has come out and said he didn't think he got a fair shake at USC, that, once he got out, he didn't really get a fair shake. And
well, I mean, he only had 507 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a completion percentage of 62. I mean, yeah, it's not really.
That's not good, that's not bad necessarily.
That's not good.
But they're talking about a guy that was the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country, a top 10 recruit overall in the country when he came out of high school. Is he a good fit at Pitt? Do you think he's going to produce and look like a number 1 quarterback in the country recruit? Is he going to be one of the better players in this conference? Is he going to help Pitt?
I think so. I mean, given his, he was limited last year, didn't get to do too much. If you give him the right amount of talent around him, I mean, look at Tom Brady. Look what he did.
That's true. You never know what you can do, and he's obviously a talented player. You don't get those type of ratings and that highly regarded out of high school.
But also, I mean, if you don't produce in college D1, then you're just making yourself look like a fool.
You got a point there. 2 different levels.
Yeah.
But I think he's hungry after realizing at USC almost kind of missing his chance. Almost that this is he's a senior. Well, he's a graduate transfer. He's a senior. This is the last chance to show it, and hopefully have a good year and get up in that NFL draft. Which is the class coming out after the season is not going to be that. There's not that many great QBs coming out. You got Sam Darnold at USC, the guy that he lost out his job to, and I'm sure he'd love to get up in there in that competition with him in the draft.
We talked about him and make USC feel dumb for getting rid of him and starting
exactly.
Darnold.
He's going to be hungry, so I think he's going to have a good year and play good.
What about Clemson after Deshaun Watson? You think they're going? I mean, you've been dogging them all show. I mean.
I'm not necessarily dogging Clemson as much as I just have confidence in Florida State returning more than Clemson does. I think Clemson's defense is going to be great. It always is. They could return 1 or 2 starters and still probably have a great defense. But I think that losing everything they did on offense, and it's not necessarily losing Watson or even that they lost people, because Clemson gets some of the best recruits in the country. They're always up there in the recruiting class. They're just going to reload. I think they're going to have a great season still. I think 9-10 wins. But I just think that they're going to lose those couple big games. I think that Florida State's going to get them. I think that Louisville could possibly get them this time.
So you're obviously trying to say Kelly Bryant is not a proven winner like Deshaun Watson. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, Deshaun Watson's a once-in-a-lifetime player, basically. I mean, there's only one Deshaun Watson, and
That's why
they're not going to be looking for another Deshaun Watson.
That's why Tom Savage, like I told you last show, Tom Savage is starting.
Hey, Tom Savage is starting right now, but I think after the preseason that may change. It's subject to change. Yeah, Tom Savage may start week 1. If it does, I'll eat crow and say this guy was right, but I'm not going to do it just yet. You won't see me do it just yet.
You'll see it.
There's no way. But I got faith in Kelly Bryant, though, and I think those other quarterbacks Clemson have is great. I think that Trevor Lawrence, who comes in there next year, is probably going to take over, though, and I think he's, their next great one. I think that this year they're not necessarily having a year where they fall back, really. They're going to still be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the conference. I just don't think that they'll win the conference.
What about NC State? You see them having another big upset on any other top teams this year, or will their streak continue? I mean, they dominated Vandy in their bowl game.
Yeah, they got hot there at the end, and I think that they're a team that needs to continue to improve, and they can really get to that next level if so. If their offense can, come along and keep continuing. Ryan Finley there, the transfer from Boise State, quietly had a great year last year and is back again. And I think he's only going to improve and get better. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them shock somebody. Maybe they shock Louisville or Virginia Tech or heck, even Florida State. It's a make-or-break year for Larry Fedora at North Carolina. They're kind of been up and down, kind of streaky. Do you think that this year he's really got to take that next step and get them, win that they get an ACC title game?
It falls on their starting quarterback. If they bring Brandon Harris in and start him, it all falls on him. How he leads the team, how it makes him go. If he does, excuse my language, shitty, then that's what North Carolina's going to do, unless their defense steps up. I mean, they have the past couple of years, but like you said, they've been streaky. You need to get it together and just ride the wave.
I think that they not necessarily need to win their division this year, but they just need to show that they're going to consistently be one of the top teams in it, if nothing else.
No, you got.
And I think it's too early to get rid of Larry Fedora. I think you keep Larry Fedora.
And I forgot the quarterback when they had Ron Switzer,
Marquise Williams, and Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, okay. When you had them, no, you can't degrade and try and progress. You gotta go higher. You gotta keep going forward, not regress and go backwards.
So, in your opinion, if they have a down year, maybe time to move on from Larry Fedora?
Cut him.
That's harsh. This is a team that nearly beat Clemson in the ACC title game 2 years ago. So
but what was they?
I guess a lot changes in a couple years.
Yeah, that's all you need. All you need is really 6 months, 30 days. If they don't like what you're doing.
Let's talk about your team down there, Virginia Tech. Their defense, like I said, was going to be stout. Is that defense going to be stout enough to carry them through their early schedule until the offense comes along, developing new starters at quarterback, running back, tight end, and receiver?
I mean, they say, defense wins championships, but you obviously need more than the defense. So, maybe first 2 games, first 3 games.
I think it's tough because they're not starting off with that cupcake FCS or anything. It's a tough matchup and rivalry against West Virginia. It's going to be hard starting off with that young offense and Josh Jackson at quarterback.
If they get
being a freshman going against that Tony Gibson, the defensive coordinator that loves the blitz and bring the pressure and play aggressive. It's going to be tough for that freshman.
First game, we'll come back, rebound the second game, just like we never lost to beat the first game. But we're going to definitely need more than our defense to step up. Just hopefully it takes 2-3 weeks for the offense to get it together. Then you never know. They might have it together by week 1 and come out and guns blazing.
Fuente's a great coach, and he could have him ready to go
his first
off
year
the
we was in the ACC championship. I don't think Frank Beamer has his first year at the ACC championship. So, look at that. What's that tell you?
So then in that division with you guys in Miami, do you think that let's go predictions here since wrap this thing up, this ACC preview of the college football special. Some predictions in your division. Do you Virginia Tech to win y'all's division over Miami? Are y'all going to take that division and go back to the ACC championship game? Is that your prediction? And then on the other side, Florida State, Clemson, Louisville. Who do you see in the ACC championship game, and who do you see win the ACC?
My biased pick to win in the Coastal, it's obviously Virginia Tech, but my realistic pick is be Miami. I think they're the real deal. They're back. Mark Richt gonna have them right. So Miami coming out the Coastal. Sorry, VT. And then out the Atlantic, I'm going to have, gotta go Clemson. You can't go against the defending ACC champion.
So Clemson, Miami matching up in the ACC championship game for you.
That's a realistic pick. My biased pick is Clemson, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech
and then,
overcoming,
who do you got? ACC champion.
ACC
early
champion.
Prediction.
My early prediction. I mean, you can't go against the defending ACC champion. They got the throne still, so Clemson.
Clemson.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to agree with you on the coastal side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miami comes out of the coastal. I think you can watch out for Pitt there, and you can watch out for UNC there. Virginia Tech, of course. Atlantic, Florida State, bringing it home. Like I've been saying this whole show, Florida State's the team to do it, and they're going to do it. And Florida State, Miami matchup, that's a classic matchup right there in the ACC championship game.
Who's winning?
Florida State. I think Florida State early prediction this year is you may see them great chance seeing them in the college football playoff.
You got Florida State back to them Jameis Winston days.
Florida State,
you blowing their head up.
Florida State's got a chance to be that good again, if not better, that good. I'm tell you right now, they can do it. Lot of storylines in the ACC. One of the best conferences in college football.
Mm-hmm.
This is part one of a 5-part series. Each Power 5 conference previewing the upcoming college football season for you guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Like our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter. Instagram as well. We're on there on social media. Check out our website, trio4productions.wixsite.com/trio4. We're just getting up and running. It's got links to our talk shows, our series that'll be coming up will be on there. Links to our social media pages. If you need to contact us, email us. It's on there. A little bit about us is on there. Hope you guys have enjoyed this first part of the 5-part college football preview series, previewing the ACC. Great conference, maybe the best in college football.
Some people would say it's one of the best.
I'm interested to see how it falls out, and we're interested here to see the Florida State and Clemson battle, obviously, because we don't see eye to eye on how this thing's going to shake out here.
Probably me more not seeing eye to eye.
I'm sure they'll see a lot of us seeing eye to eye throughout our shows here on the Highlight Spiel, but that's part of the fun of it, right?
Yep.
Appreciate you guys, and like I said, this is part 1 of the 5-part series. Look out for the next part, the Big Ten, coming soon in the College Football Preview Special. Thank y'all.
I'm Fletch.
I'm Jordan. This has been the Highlight Spiel, a product of Trio 4 Productions. Thank you, guys.